But now I use it in my life every day. And so I submit it to your viewers as well. These are the 3 decisions that I think everyone makes every moment. First, you're doing it right now. What are you going to focus on?
One of the things that I've been hearing you talk about a lot recently that seems to tie into this is the difference in life between when you focus on things that are wrong and when you focus on things that are right. And I think a lot of people have managed to achieve quite a bit of success by avoiding pitfalls. You know, you present them with something they can say, well, that's wrong and that's going to be an issue and we need to make sure that that's sorted there. But as you've said, the things that you focus on seem to appear more frequently in your life. And if you've justified to yourself and if you've built up this habit, this stack of evidence that it's useful for me to focus on where potential pitfalls may be and make sure that I can avoid them, develop this pattern.
Yes.
And that is now going to be ported over into everything. So when your partner comes through the door and does something that pisses you off, the first thing that you don't think is, I'm so grateful to have her. Like, she's so wonderful. Think about all of the things. It's like, she fucking left. The makeup's out on the counter again and she didn't clean up the such and such. So just dig into that difference between focusing on what's right versus focusing on what's wrong when it comes to your trajectory in life.
I think it's important to realize wherever focus goes, energy flows. It's corny, but it's true, right? In fact, maybe an easier way of saying it is, we don't experience life. None of us do. We experience the life we focus on. So in any moment, what's wrong is always available. So is what's right. So it's not about being positive. It's about being intelligent, right? You know, when you're in a totally negative state and the world's going to end and there are people like believing that in the next 12 years, the entire environment's going to collapse and they won't have a child, you know, you got to look at the impact of what you're believing. And you got to look at and say, you know, where's my focus going? I can always be upset about something. I can always find something to be joyous or at least grateful for, which leads to joy. And I think it's having that, learning to discipline your disappointments, you know, not allow them to grow and to move on and to use whatever life is giving you. I think there's 3 decisions that people make every moment of their life. Now, I'm not saying they make them consciously. If you make them unconsciously, you have the same patterns over and over again. And usually they're not good ones, right? Sometimes they're good, but not usually. And I learned these really because I had an experience when I was 11 years old. I was my 4th father, and he got fired, and we had no money and no food. We were always poor, but I mean, we wouldn't have starved. We had saltine crackers and peanut butter, right? But when everybody else around you was having a big Thanksgiving dinner, it was pretty depressing. And my mom and dad were saying things to each other that once you say them, you can't take them back. And I have a younger brother, 5 years younger, and a younger sister, 7 years younger. So I felt like the parent almost. I'm trying to protect them. I'm only 11 years old. And what changed my life is this bang on the door. I go open the door, and there's this guy, big guy with groceries in both hands, and he had a pot on the ground with an uncooked turkey. And he looks at me and says, "Is your father here?" And I'm like, just one moment. I'm just like, this to me was like Christmas, right? This is the greatest thing. It's going to stop the fighting. It's going to be incredible. So I go to my father and I say, you know, Dad, there's somebody at the door for you. And he's yelling at my mom through the closed door that she slammed on him. And he goes, "You answer." I said, "I did. It's for you." He goes, "Who is it?" I said, "I don't know." They said, "They got to talk to you," right? And I had this level of excitement, like little boy excitement, like this is going to be the greatest thing. And my dad opens the door, and I'll never forget the look on his face. He got angry, which shocked me. And he said to the man, "We don't accept charity," before the guy even said anything. And he went to slam the door, and the guy had leaned in slightly, so it hit his shoulder, and it bounced off of him, which made my dad even madder. And then he said, he goes, sir, I'm just the delivery guy. You know, somebody knows you're having a tough time. Everyone has a tough time, and they just want you to have a great Thanksgiving with your family." My father says, "We don't accept charity." He goes to slam it again. But I think because he leaned in, his foot came in now it hit his foot and bounced open again. It's just like, now I got fear runs in my body because I know my father, right? And my father looks at him, and the guy looks at him and says something. I thought my father was going to punch him in the face. And he didn't do it mean. He had a softness in his face, and he said, "Sir," he saw me, and he said, "Don't make your family suffer because of your ego." And the veins on my father's side of his neck were like this. He's beet red. I thought for sure he was going to punch the guy. And then all of a sudden his shoulders dropped, like defeated. He took the groceries, he slammed them on the ground, slammed the door, didn't even pick up the turkey, and didn't say thank you or anything. And shortly after that, he left our family, which to me at the time was the worst experience of my life, I thought. And so I was kind of obsessed with trying to figure out why. And I didn't figure it out for a couple of years, I had versions of it in my head. And so the bottom line is, I know my father and I had a different experience because we had different focuses that day. I was focused on his food. What a concept, this is cool. He was focused on that he had not taken care of his family. And I know that because, he said it about 20 times under his breath. The second decision, though, the minute you focus on something, your brain has to decide, what does it mean? And meaning is what creates emotion, and emotion is where your life is. Quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. If you got $1 billion and every day you're pissed off and angry, your life's quality is called pissed off and angry. If you got 3 beautiful children, a husband or wife you love, but you worry all the time, your life is worry, So his focus and then his meaning, that was the worst part. The meaning he gave it was that he was worthless and didn't belong here. And that usually leads to the third decision, which is, what are you going to do? Like, if you think the meaning is that something happens, you say this person is dissing me, disrespecting me, or is this person challenging me, or is this person coaching me, or is this person loving me? If you think they're dissing you, you're going to have a very different emotional reaction than if you think they're coaching you or loving you. And then, of course, that's going to change what decision you make. Because if you're angry, you're going to make a different decision than if you're playful or generous or whatever the case may be. So those 3 decisions control our lives. I give them an opportunity to take a look at it, because there's some patterns that you can make some simple patterns and change your whole life of focus. So the first one is, and I'd ask you 2 questions for you. One, Chris, is what do you think most people's answer to this question is? And the other is, what's yours? We all have a pattern of focusing on what we have and at times on what's missing. Which one do you think most people spend more time focusing on, what they have or what's missing?
What's missing?
What do you focus more on?
What's missing?
Yes. It isn't something that comes, the focus on what's missing is not something that comes with someone who is a failure. It comes very much with people who are very successful. And the question then becomes, if you're always focused on missing, how can you sustain happiness?
You're in a permanent place of lack.
That's correct. So scarcity is there. So you'll have drive, right, to keep staying on the hamster wheel of achievement, but you're not going to see much fulfillment, not in a sustainable way. It's impossible. It has nothing to do with you or me, right? It's just software. And we got a soul. We're not software. But you run your software so often, you start thinking your mind is you versus my mind is a tool that I'm going to use. Or if I don't use it, it's going to use me. So the majority of people do that. And by the way, during COVID, that number exploded because so many things were taken from people. They were constantly focused on what's missing, and that produces nothing but pain. Second question, and I think I know your answer to this one, which do you tend to focus on more? What do you think most people focus on more, what they can control or what they can't control? And then which one do you focus more on?
I think most people would probably focus on what they can't control. I'm an even balance, I would say, between the two. I'm working quite hard to try.
I was going to say, you strive. It's part of your philosophy, right? To focus on what you can control, right? So that's part of the Stoicism, whole philosophy of Stoicism, right? So, but most people, you're absolutely right. Now, in my seminars, it's different because I got 15, 20,000 people ask that question, and the vast majority of them say they're focused on what's missing, but the vast majority of them say they do focus on what they can control. That's why they came. Why would they spend their money and time? They want to take control of their business or their body or their relationship, whatever the case may be. So they have a different belief structure. If you have both of those out of whack, you got some real challenges. Most people have at least one out of whack, which creates stress. And then the third one, and there's many more than these, but just quickie for the people at home, and I'm asking them to do this for themselves if they want to. Where do you tend to focus more? Your past, your present, your future. We all spend all 3, but where do you spend more of your time? Where do you think most people do? Where do you?